Welcome to the Turn One Studio podcast. I'm Elliot Custodio with Turn One Studio, and on this show, we sit with business professionals that we know and admire to learn more about their business and more about them personally. Today, we have Anthony Curcio from Curcio Law. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, I don't want to make any assumptions. Explain to us what you do.
I'm a real estate attorney. I do all aspects of real estate law, from transactions to leasing, land development, financing, and landlord-tenant issues.
Okay, so you do both residential and commercial.
Correct.
Okay. How did you get into this?
Well, it's a long story. It goes back before I was even born, actually. It goes back to my family. My grandfather was a real estate broker and developer, investor. And then my uncle and my father also got into the business doing 55 and over developments.
Oh, wow.
Apartment complexes. And now they're doing more market rental stuff. But that's where they started, and they're still doing it at this point. And then I decided to get into the family business, not doing development, but I became a real estate broker out of college.
Okay.
Worked part-time for a municipality at the same time while I was a broker. Then kind of decided, after 2008 when everything crashed, I kind of decided there's got to be something else I can do, something with a little more security. So decided to go to law school.
Okay.
And what better than to do real estate law? So went to law school at night, worked full-time. Did that for about 3 years, passed the bar, and then from then I went on to work for the same municipality's town attorney's office for a couple of years, did some litigation, not really feeling it.
Okay.
So from there, went to a big law firm in Sir Tillman Ballin. They're one of the bigger real estate firms on Long Island. Worked there for about 3 years, really learned a lot from land use and zoning to the transactional end, did a lot of condominium work. Learned from people that, been doing it 20, 30, 40 years. So
Right.
I really got some good mentorship there. But, at the end of the day, the big law thing was just not for me. Decided to go to a smaller firm, more of a boutique style real estate firm, where I really got to cut my teeth because there was a lot of work to be done and they needed people to do it. And
Good experience.
it was a real good experience. Got some real good mentorship there because in those smaller firms, they have more time for you, frankly, to sit down and go over things with you and teach you and answer your questions. So learning from very good attorneys and doing different aspects of the law, it really just helped me hone my skills and made me a better attorney. I always wanted to have my own practice, and then I was 40 years old, practicing for about 8 years at that point, and I was like, you know what, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it.
Sure.
So had a long talk with the family. Obviously, it's a big sacrifice to jump into something like that. So got the blessing, went ahead and started, and it's about over 2.5 years now, and
Congratulations.
I did every day. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Are you enjoying it?
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And it's a lot more hours, frankly.
Right.
And it's me and an assistant, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay.
It's funny to say that you're working more hours, but you're enjoying it, but it's all for you. And,
Yeah.
And it's the process. It's the journey. I'm building something here, and to see that you're putting in the work and there's a result from it is amazing. 'Cause
Yeah.
and that's part of the journey too. You're
building it for you.
Building it for me, and hopefully for my children one
Sure.
day, or whoever wants to take it over at some point. It's interesting to go through the journey because you have the ups and downs. You wonder, is this going to work? Because you'll do, this. You put a lot of work in, and you don't see any results. You start doubting yourself.
Right.
So it really tests you out mentally.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like asking that question because some people don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
They get into business because they like doing the thing, and they kind of overlook or underestimate the requirement of running the business in order to do the thing.
Right.
And very often the business part, if you're not someone who enjoys business or a student of business or a business enthusiast, if you don't enjoy that aspect, it'll ruin or potentially ruin the thing that you do enjoy doing. All of a sudden it becomes a job and no longer a joy.
Right.
Are municipalities as difficult to deal with as a non-lawyer believes it is? In other words, people complain all the time about having to deal with the town for a variety of things. Is that really accurate, or is it because people like me that are not attorneys just aren't equipped to do it correctly. I don't know if I'm saying
No, it's
that,
very
but
frustrating.
It is.
Actually, yes.
So it's not just
No,
for
it's
the
not
layman.
Just you.
Okay.
It's not just you. And I guess it's more frustrating for attorneys because, especially when you do what I do, a lot of land use and zoning work, you're dealing with them on a regular basis.
Okay.
And each township or village is different. And let's face it, government's never been known for being efficient or fast-paced or anything like that, and frankly, probably never will be. So you have clients, especially in the land use and zoning space, who are trying to develop a piece of property. They're paying taxes every month, carrying costs. They need approvals. They got to get going. Depending on the township, could take you anywhere from 6 months to a year to get an approval,
Okay.
or to even get on a hearing calendar
Right.
you can do anything. And it's frustrating. You have to set the expectations with the client. Like, listen, this is the timeline here, and I wish I can have better news for you, but there's, you have relationships with people in the townships, but you can only push that so far,
Right.
and you can only get things pushed through so quickly, and then, it is what it is. They have timelines. This is the way they operate. They have processes in place, and you can only push it so far, and they have expectations. And if you set the expectation, there's less headaches, but they're always going to want to know what's taking so long.
Right.
Because
It's just out of your control.
they're paying money for seeing no results, frankly, because they're waiting. So it's tough. And even when you have your hearing, then you got to wait to get the decision. That takes months, depending on the township. So it's a lot of waiting and a lot of paying money that you're not seeing any results for.
Right.
It's tough, especially in New York. It's a lot different than other states, obviously.
Yeah, I've heard of of folks in other states transacting without using an attorney at all.
Yeah, for sales purposes, like Florida is like a non-attorney state.
Right. I think Texas may be also, right?
I'm not sure about
At least
Texas.
culturally,
I know
it's
Florida is like notorious for that, but
Okay.
they're also notorious for having like the highest rate of litigation too.
Okay.
When it comes to real estate transactions, so
Give and take.
give and take, right? You're not gonna use an attorney. Things are gonna happen at the closing table that maybe if you had an attorney, they would have caught prior to or at the closing table. So
All right. I was at an event earlier this morning, and it was a marketing-themed event. And the panel that was speaking were talking to a room full of small business owners about marketing. One of the things I loved was, just generally speaking, they shared stuff that I want more of my clients or my leads to know, right? That's a segue into me asking you, when should your clients really engage you in the process of, let's say, buying something? And what would you like them to know to make the process not only smoother for you, but for them to get the most benefit using someone like you?
well, it depends what side of the deal you're on. If you're a seller or a purchaser. If you're a purchaser, the earlier the better. You have your
Okay.
team set up. You'll have your broker. You got your attorney.
Or how early? Before I even find a house? Are you consulting me
Yeah,
through that process?
before you even find a house, because when you do find the house and you want to put an offer in, you want to make sure you got an offer accepted quickly and you're ready to go to start putting contracts together.
Okay.
If you're searching for an attorney and you have an accepted offer, you might lose that deal. To
You're
somebody.
wasting time.
Somebody might come in and take that deal away from you.
Okay.
As a seller, you don't need me as early. I mean, you do need me when you start listing the home, because if you get an offer, same thing, you're going to want to have somebody lined up, ready to go,
Right.
to put a contract together when you get that offer and you want to accept it, absolutely.
You're on the team, but you're not necessarily super engaged at that point.
Right, I'm not engaged until once the broker is engaged first, and usually they'll have their mortgage broker picked out also. This way they come with the pre-approval to the when they put an offer in. Once the offer is accepted, then I come in and I start doing the contracts and get all that stuff lined up. Once we go to contract, and then after that, it's really just waiting for the loan to clear.
Okay.
And any title issues, which I deal with that as well. So, when I sit down and talk to a client, I kind of give them not the timeline, but I kind of give them the pathways to where we're going. You're going to hire me. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for the contract. We're going to go to contract. I'm going to do this, and this for the title.
Okay.
And then we're going to do the closing, and this is what I'm going to do with the closing. Give you a closing statement, tell you how much money you got to bring, and if there's any issues at closing, we'll address them then.
Excellent. Where do you find most of your business coming from?
A lot of my business has been coming from brokers, mortgage brokers,
Okay.
real estate brokers, also architects, because land use and zoning, you always need some kind
Sure.
of architect.
Sure.
And lately, it's been investors. I hooked up with a couple of investors, and word of mouth has been spreading a little bit. I just got a text over the weekend from somebody looking to do something in islip.
So is now, do you think the climate's good right now for real estate investment?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good for investment. I hate to say it's always good, but I mean, listen, we don't know what's going to happen with mortgage rates.
Right.
Everyone's scared, and if you want to do something in real estate, do it. Why wait? Nobody's ever outsmarted the market. You're not going to.
Right. Is it always good because it generally just continues to climb if you give it enough time?
Real estate's never a bad investment, unless obviously you overpay or you do something. If you're reckless with it, obviously you could lose money. It's
like
always
anything
a risk.
else.
Everything's a risk, but genuinely, if you do your due diligence and you're smart about it, it's always a great investment. Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's always appreciated over the years. Even when there's a down market, it comes back up eventually. We've seen that since, I guess, around COVID, things have gone crazy, price-wise and everything else. And even though the mortgage rates have gone up, we see now with the tariff stuff, things are starting to drop a little bit.
Right.
But even at the rates they're at now, they're still pretty low considering where they came from. I mean, in the 80s, they were at 15%.
Well, it's funny. People cite the 80s all the time.
Yeah,
it was as if you bought the house on a credit card.
It could always be worse.
Yeah.
So people got to realize that too. Like it's not terrible.
Does that resonate when you're talking to younger, like first-time buyers, where the 80s was 1,000 years ago?
No, they have no idea.
So
it's
it doesn't matter.
It's like talking about the 1800s. You know what I mean? I don't even bring that up to them because a lot of times the first-time home buyers, unfortunately, they really need to be educated on the whole process. They're not even. That's the thing that it can make you crazy too, because it's the biggest purchase of your life, and if you don't have the right team behind you, you're flying blind. And you should have a really good idea of what you're doing before you go into it. So I try to guide them the best I can, and I don't want to put down other members of the team or anything like that. But you got to guide them and give them the information they need and let them know what's going on. And be totally.
And sometimes you can't see beyond what's in front of you. Like I know a lot of people say. You date the rate, but you marry the house, right? And if you can see beyond the purchase today or 6 months, whenever that window is before you close, if you go beyond that and see what refinancing could look like or the appreciation and the value of the land.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a forced savings too. You have to pay that It
is a forced savings.
Every month.
That's true.
And every month you do that, you're getting equity in your house. So if you go to sell it, you're going to get that money back at some point.
Right.
Obviously, it's not realized until you actually sell it, but the fact that you have that sitting there, it's a great thing,
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I'm not forcing myself to save that kind of money on a regular basis unless I'm forced to. It's just the human nature.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Are there things that you do that the average person doesn't realize a real estate attorney can do for them? Non-obvious, obscure things.
I'll put it like this. I try to separate myself because there's a million real estate attorneys out there. And the number one complaint I always get, I can't reach them. Or I'm dealing with their
what you're getting to what my next question was, differentiator.
I'm dealing with their associate. I want to speak to the attorney I hired. With me, I'm a one-man shop. And, obviously there's pros and cons to that. But so you hire me because you want me.
Right.
You're not hiring me because you want somebody else. So you hire me, you get me. And I'm also very accessible. A lot of attorneys on the weekends, I don't answer emails, I'm hands off, that kind of thing. Because I was a broker at one point, my mentality is almost as a broker acting as a real estate attorney. Like
that's an interesting perspective.
I text all my clients, they text me, they all have my cell phone number. Whether or not that's going to kill me one day, maybe not, I don't know. But a lot of people are very cognizant about boundaries and they don't really abuse it. I haven't had that problem yet, so thank God for that. But I'm sure down the road it'll happen at some point. But I'm very accessible via email, text messaging, even phone calls. Like if I have a client who's got a question on Saturday, I call them. It's a 5-minute conversation. At the end of the day, it doesn't ruin my weekend, and it might calm them down knowing that they got an answer or knowing that I spoke to them, and I'll look into it on Monday, and we'll talk then.
It also helps that you enjoy business.
Yeah,
right?
I enjoy business, and I enjoy really helping people. That's the main goal here. Whether it's helping them buy a property or if they're looking to develop a property, what can I do with this? And I can do my research and come to some kind of solution for them, whether it's not the one they were looking for, but maybe get them thinking outside the box of what they can do with a piece of property.
Right.
I enjoy doing that for people, and there's a lot of value to that,
Nice. On the business side of the business, do you see a future where you're growing your firm to more attorneys, or do you like keeping it boutique?
I like boutique right now because I like keeping all the revenue, but it's going to get to a point. I could see it coming already where I'm going to have to hire another assistant and maybe an entry-level attorney at some point just to handle the little things like the administrative stuff. It becomes too much where it takes away from the real work and helping people.
Well, yeah, you're spending your time on low-dollar tasks.
Right, exactly, where I could be doing other things. So, yeah, that's definitely coming sooner than later.
Okay. Yeah. So you're taking calls on the occasional Saturday, but what are you doing for fun?
Playing golf when it's nice out. I love playing golf. Yeah, just getting outside 3 or 4 hours and being in the fresh air. Other than that, I'm, spending time with my kids because during the week it's, I'm working constantly. So whether it's running the soccer games or swimming or just going out and going to the park, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, a lot of fun.
I like asking people that come on the podcast, would you recommend what you do to others? If you were talking to someone who was maybe getting close to graduating high school, considering what their career moves or their major in college might be, is this something you'd recommend? Is there something better that you've learned over time? Might be a better recommendation?
Honestly, no. I love what I do. And I mean,
it's kind of an easy question because I can tell you love what you do.
I love what I do. And, there's always real estate is, people just think of buying and selling homes, but it's it's an area of law that's very vast.
Yeah.
People don't think of a lot of other things you could get into. And if you can find a nice niche for yourself, you can have a nice business, and it's not, like litigation where you're constantly battling people, or matrimonial where it's just screaming and yelling. You can practice law and not be a crazy person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you'll run into people that do litigation. They love to fight. They love to argue. Or matrimonial attorneys. I'm not trying to put them in a corner, but they have a reputation in their
right. Well, those skills are required and important for what they do.
They got to zealously represent their clients in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm not like that, but that's okay. There's something for everybody. And in real estate, there's a lot of things you can get into, a lot of different areas. So even if it's not the transactional end, there's other things you can do on the banking end or landlord tenant. That's always a huge area.
Right.
That's even more prevalent than ever now that people can't afford homes. A lot more rentals, and the rental market is very scarce on Long Island especially, so it's going to keep growing for sure.
When it comes to being a renter, and I guess maybe I'm asking this question from a residential landlord perspective, or at least first. Mm-hmm. In New York, what happens if someone stops paying the rent? Because I've heard nightmare rumors. I don't know what's actually true. Can you evict? Are they allowed to stay? Like, how does that work? Like a squatter situation, I guess.
Well, squatting is a different situation. Squatting is you're breaking into a house and staying there, and you weren't allowed to.
So you're not considered a squatter if you just stop paying your rent.
No, when you stop paying, you've already established like a landlord-tenant relationship.
Okay.
So at that point, if you stop paying the rent, then you can be evicted. Unfortunately, the way the rules are written out, depending on how long you stayed in the premises, it could be up to 90 days before you even have to leave. And then once it's 90
days. Like a baked-in grace period?
You get it's called a predicate notice that you're basically told, it depends on how long you've stayed there, depends on what you're doing. There's not paying your rent, and then there's also just overstaying your welcome when the lease expires.
Right.
Or you're told, I'm not renewing your lease, and they overstay. Depending on the situation, it could be 4 to 5 months before you even get into court.
Okay.
Between predicate notices and filing your paperwork and then actually getting a court date. And the way the laws are written, they're so heavily favored toward the tenant. I mean, people ask me how long is it going to take to get evicted. 6 months to a year is just my canned answer, because it's...
That scares me, the prospect of being a landlord.
Yeah, it is scary. It is very much scary. And you can do all this work, especially with the rental thing. If they don't pay rent, then all of a sudden they could show up to court and pay you that day.
Really?
Yeah. And then
as long as they bring you up to speed, you guys are good.
Right. Yeah. Huh. So then you can waste all this money going to court and filing and doing all this stuff, and they can pay you at the court hearing that day. And
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's crazy.
So is there anything a landlord can do to protect them? Are there insurance? Maybe this is a naive question. Are there insurances one could purchase? And no.
Not
You're just
really.
kind of holding the bag.
Yeah, I would just say have a reserve. That's the best.
Okay.
Have a reserve, a cash fund in case. They don't pay. Obviously, you get security deposit, but even that you can only take a certain amount.
Right.
So, I mean, I would just have cash on hand.
Is that an issue in the commercial space?
No, commercial is completely different because you're not dealing with people's livelihood. Usually there's no kids involved and that sort of thing. So it's a much quicker, much easier process for sure.
To evict.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could do self-help. I mean, it's a completely different thing than
interesting.
residential. Yeah. Because residential, you get you pull in the heartstrings of the judge. My kids,
they're in school.
Right. There's a lot. And at the end of the day, I love representing landlords and tenants, but the tenants want you to, make miracles happen where they can live in the house for 5 years. And it's
right. You should have just been paying your
Eventually
rent.
you got to pay your rent or leave, or
Right.
eventually you got to leave. You can't stay. It's not your house, you know. You have to have that come to Jesus moment with them eventually.
Yeah.
You know, you do what you can to represent the client, but at some point it's like, you know, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Got to figure it out one way or the other.
So we spoke a little earlier about first-time buyers and the younger folks getting into their first purchase. What recommendations would you have for them to get that process started? Is it just saving money?
Yeah, it's obviously it's a lot more expensive than it was when we first bought our home. So save your money. If you can get somebody else to help you, that's always a plus, because unless you're 23 years old and you have a business and you're making $1 million a year, or you got some crazy job where you're making big money, it's going to be a while before you buy something.
Yeah.
So even, you know, I don't recommend renting because you're paying someone else's mortgage and it's so expensive. It's very hard to save when you're paying $3,500 a month, because that's
Right.
kind of what rents are right now. So just save your money. Yeah, nickel and dime.
Stay at home as long as you
stay at
can
home.
while you're saving.
Nobody wants to live at home with their parents, but it's like, what are you going to do? You have no other choice.
Yeah.
You know, just nickel and dime, live below your means, don't go crazy spending money, and you can put a nice down payment together.
All right.
You know, absolutely.
So the classic advice prevails.
Yeah, and you don't have to buy a big house your first time out. Go buy a condo. Go
Right.
buy a co-op, something small. At least
stepping
you can build
stone.
equity to. Right. You could sell later on and go buy something bigger later on. You don't have to buy something crazy out the gate. So,
Good stuff.
or buy a fixer-upper and do the work yourself if you can.
All right, put some equity into it.
Me, I can't do a light bulb, so that was a question. But, you know, other people, if they're handy, might as well put some
Yeah.
equity into it. Absolutely, for sure.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, let everyone know how they could find you.
You can find me on Instagram, Curcio Law PLLC, on my LinkedIn account. You can go to my website, curciolawpllc.com. Any questions, you can email me, acurcio@curciolawpllc.com, or you can text or call me. My 516-809-8483 is my office, and my cell is 631-943-8351.
Very accessible.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
This is
Appreciate it.
fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.